Shattering Glass, chapters 11 and 12. When I heard what happened, it shocked me, but when I heard who was involved, I doubted my own sanity. I know that Rob oozed animal magnetism and charm, and you might not want to trust charmers. In teaching, you meet lots of those, but young Stewart, yes. In person, he was kind of buttoned up. Repressed anger, I guess, looking at it from hindsight. Not hard to understand if you've had a conversation with his father, but his English teacher showed me Young's writing. It was observant and sensitive. How could he have gotten swept up in this? I went to Huntsville once and visited. I could never go again. It broke my heart to see him there. Janice Connolly, Brazos Vale High School counselor. The next morning I found Simon. How do we work this schedule business? First, you change your schedule back to creative writing. Connolly's gonna have a shit fit. You have to be registered in the course before I build in the override. Okay, I'll do that now. What's next? I go to the office and find the code to the main program. And you'll do that how? Simon looked amused. All it takes is someone clumsy. When? I can get the code today, but we need to wait a couple of weeks before I hack the program. Give everyone a chance to forget anything unusual. Your creative writing class isn't until next semester, right? What about Lance? That'll have to keep. Simon looked around. I'll go with you to Connolly's office and get the access code now. When Glass and I walked in, Miss Connolly looked perplexed. What can I do for you boys? Nothing for me, Miss Connolly. I just came along with Young. Simon was in his bumbling mode. Don't mind me. He pulled his backpack in front and tugged on the zipper. This thing always gets stuck, he said, yanking. I want to drop advanced bio and sign up for creative writing again. Connolly sighed, rolled her head back, and massaged the nape of her neck. I heard little creaking noises as she rocked her head back and forth. Young, how many times do we have to go through this? I know, Miss Connolly, but I finally talked to my dad into it. I promised him I would take bio at the community college. It gives me dual credit for high school and college, doesn't it? I oozed juvenile sincerity. Yes, it does, and it's a good idea, but it doesn't count towards your class ranking. Does your father understand that? Yes, ma'am, he does. I'll make the change. She turned to her computer, gave a calculating glance, and tapped the keys. Simon worked on the recalcitrant zipper. He edged closer to the desk and yanked hard. The zipper flew open. Books cascaded out and landed on Miss Connolly's keyboard. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Here, let me help. Simon scattered the books, then tripped and fell across the screen and Miss Connolly. The counselor pushed back. Simon clambered up. Oh, sorry. While his body blocked her view of the screen, Simon punched a key. The screen went blank. Look what I've done. Simon grabbed his books and pointed to the screen. I lost your whole program. Miss Connolly shook her head. Don't worry, Simon. The program saves itself when it shuts down. As she pecked the keys, Simon was at her elbow, stuffing books back into his backpack. His eyes watched her fingers, then a slow smile tugged his mouth. I'll wait outside for you, Young, before I do any more damage. He bumbled his way out. All right, we've got you signed up. She hit the print command, ripped off a schedule change, and tossed it to me. Get that signed and you'll be in business. She smiled. I'm glad your father agreed, Young. Your English teacher says you have talent. I hurried out, grabbed Simon by the elbow, and pulled him around the corner. That was unbelievable, Glass. Do you think she suspected? No way. She was just glad to get you out of her office before you destroyed the furniture. Glass shrugged. People wanted to get rid of me as something I'm used to. Well, it worked to your benefit this time. Simon slid a sideways look at me. He was cool and relaxed. No, Young, it worked to your benefit. My good feeling vanished. I owe you one, I muttered. I wanted to smash Glass's face. When Rob helped me out, it was like he was supporting me. But when Simon did, he rubbed my nose in it. Chapter 12. I filed a suit against the school district. If they had even the most rudimentary of security systems for the database, this wouldn't have gotten so out of hand. James Glass. That afternoon, Bob gave Simon his first driving lesson. No one offered his car as sacrifice, so Simon learned to crank and cruise in Brown Dog. Brown Dog was a pickup truck that Bobster's dad had bought for $100. Its previous owner was a shrimper, and it was held together with rust and homemade resin. It smelled of seriously dead fish. The next morning, Glass was dressed and combed into acceptable standards, but he looked like crap. He had dark shadows under his eyes, and he handed Bob a check. Here, Bob, this should cover the damage. Bobster fingered the check and explained. Simon murdered my mailbox, he sighed, and the dog didn't even get a dent. I told you I couldn't drive, Simon said. Don't worry, we'll have you driving before you know it. We'll try another lesson Thursday. Let's give up. Give what up? Rob appeared, clapping one hand on Glass's shoulder. Driving lessons, Simon blurted. Rob stared at each of us. Who says? Me, Simon said. I demolished Bobster's mailbox. It was DOA, no chance of resuscitation. No problem. You'll get better, Rob said. But I might kill a person rather than a mailbox. Let's forget it. Not an option. You will get your license because Bob will teach you to drive. Rob strode away. What's with Rob? Coop asked, joining us. Hitler complex, Simon muttered. Coop shrugged. Hey, Simon, can you check these discussion questions we had for English? Coop did his homework? By himself? Bobster was shell-shocked. Did the sun come up in the west? He started to follow Coop and Simon, but spied Ginger Donaldson. Darling, are you following me? He tagged behind her. I looked around, then trudged up the steps alone. Days followed one another, and September changed into October. He changed short sleeves for long sleeves, but the biggest change was that people got used to Simon Glass. Bobster worked on Simon to quit spitting when he talked. Even I had to admit, the Glass was shaping up. Though our team was in the dumper, Coop was having a great season as star linebacker. No offers had been made, but the scouts were watching, and Coop gave them a show. Rob came up with an idea that worked big. He talked Glass into getting a team mascot costume of a snarling wolverine. We petitioned the principal to allow Simon on the track with the cheerleaders. Deputy Dog, our hallowed leader, approved, and Simon was bouncing and cheering on Friday nights. We kept the mascot's identity a secret from everyone, even the cheerleaders, and the school buzzed with the mystery. With a school the size of Beeville, the process of elimination was nearly impossible, and we made it harder by having different contenders by conspicuously absent at some games and paying a junior high kid to wear the uniform until halftime in one game while Simon sat in the stands. The driving lessons continued until Bob pronounced Simon ready to take his driving test. They made an appointment for him to take it in a week, and Simon said the time was right for his hacker magic. We slouched in the chairs at our usual table in the Commons. Young, I'm going to get into the program tonight and change your schedule. You want to come over and see how I do it? I don't know. I have to. Let's watch. Maybe we can sneak a look into Lance's file and find out some dirt. Bobster was still pushing Simon to take the offensive. Yeah, Coop added. Where's Rob? I asked. Dinner with Blair's parents, Bob said. All right, I'll pick y'all up at 7, I said. Simon answered the door and led us down the hall. We slumped into his study while he sat at the computer. This isn't complicated, but I doubt you want to memorize the process, right? Tell Coop elves do it, and he'll be fine, Bobster said. Hey man, you don't know they don't, Coop shot back. Simon clicked and clacked at the keyboard. Here we go. It was easier than I thought. A lot of schools have a protection program. He clicked more. I have here the file of Stuart Thaddeus Richard IV. I looked over Glass's shoulder. Yep, that's my file. Get on with it. Thaddeus Richard, my man, Bob shouted. Simon typed. Here's next semester's schedule. You'll register for creative writing. He tapped and plunked. Let's see if it worked. Simon pulled out of the program they re-entered. I'll pull up the teacher's file. He did, and my schedule with creative writing appeared on the screen, and we entered a grade. Simon tapped in an 82. Give me a break, Glass. I want a 92. This is just a trial run. The grade won't stay. It's the principal. He brushed his hair off his forehead and sighed. Fine, I'll change it. I'll send in. Then we'll check the main file and see what we came up with. His fingers flew and the computer changed screens. My schedule appeared again. This time it read advanced biology, and in the grade column was a 92. Coop hunkered at my elbow. That's as slick as grease through a goose. I put my hand on Coop's face and pushed him back. Thank you for that analogy. Bobster appeared in Coop's place. Glass, could we change our grades? You know, old ones? I have a D in. Glass removed his hands from the keyboard. That's how hackers get caught. Something as important as a final grade that's been on the record, it's remembered. Your English teacher, the next year's English teacher who brags about how she was a better teacher because you made a B when you had her, your parents, your counselor. Bob deflated. Shit a donkey. Well, let's get to Lance's file. Simon looked relieved and hunched over the keyboard. Look at this. Ansley's medical file says he's allergic to strawberries. Says he breaks out in hives, Bobster said. So what? We're going to put in some absences, not feed him, Coop said. We could use that information someday, Simon said. He tapped his fingers against the desktop, seemingly lost in thought. He shrugged. Whatever, I'm going to put in one absence for last week. A shrewd look crossed Bob's face. He asked, if we can put in absences, can we take them out? Sure. Well, I already have two. Why don't we ditch them? Simon looked hesitant. I don't know. That's illegal. I mean, Lance will get his absences straightened out, but changing yours is messing with the records that are audited by the state. Big deal. You're changing Young's schedule. That seems like semantics. He's still taking a class and he's working for the grade, Simon said. Do it, I said. Don't worry so much about the rules. You should talk, Bobster said. What's that mean? Chill, Young. Bobster's just goofing on you. What do you say, Simon? Why don't you fix Bobster up? Coop turned his spaniel eyes on Glass. Simon shrugged. It's not such a big deal, I guess. He tapped. You're fixed up. Absence free. Rob was with me both days. Dump his too. Why not? I've come this far, but that's it. I'm not crawling afoul of every person you know. The more time we spent in here, the better the chance of getting pegged. Simon accessed Rob's file. He dropped back onto the sofa. Coop got hunger pains and wanted to order pizza. This is strange. Simon turned around. I pulled up Rob's file and... He trailed off, turned, and looked at the computer screen again. It looks like Rob isn't who he says. What? Rob isn't who he says he is, Bob asked. When I typed in Rob Haynes, his file came up, but look here. Simon pointed to the top line. It says Haynes Robert, but here's an asterisk. When you look down here, it says Baddock, Robert Haynes Jr. Then, in parentheses, it says that Haynes is not his legal name. That means that Rob is really Rob Baddock. Do you guys know anything about that? We looked at one another. No, nobody knew. I don't get it, Coop said. Why wouldn't Rob use his real name? Maybe he's a spy, Bobster offered. Nobody bothered to answer. Are his parents divorced? Simon asked. We looked at one another again. Bob picked it up. I don't know, Glass. He never said. I assumed his dad was dead or something. He never goes off on weekend duty visits. What do you know about Rob? Simon asked me. I shrugged. Not much. He transferred in last year before Thanksgiving. Simon pointed to the screen again. This gives his entry date as November 3rd. Yeah, Bobster said. I remember he said somewhere out of state, but he never did say exactly where. Yeah, Coop said. I asked him where out of state, and he said it was a podunk town no one's ever heard of. The file says he came from Foley, Texas. By Clear Lake? That's just down the road. That's podunk, but not out of state, Coop said. No kidding, Sherlock, I said with a growing sense of betrayal. Why hadn't Rob told me this stuff? You don't need to pick on Coop, Simon said. Bite me, Glass. Just run the computer. Simon's mouth slid into a hard line. Fine. I guess I should remember my place from now on. He clattered the keys and the printer started whirring. I'll make a printout so we don't have to stand here all day. I mentally shot Glass the bird. It pissed me off whenever he showed some spine. We studied the hard copy. It showed Rob was indeed a transfer from the Clear Lake district. His mother was Baddock Louise and his father was Baddock Robert H. It showed Rob's address correctly and listed his father as living in Foley. There was something else strange. The file said Rob's mother worked at Dow as a secretary, but showed his father formerly being an engineer at one of those companies that contract most of their work to NASA. The record did not reveal a present place of business. Maybe his dad was a spy. It seemed the idea of international intrigue appealed to Bob. All those James Bond movies must have warped him. Why don't any of you guys know this stuff about Rob? Glass asked. Rob? Bob looked at me. He never talks about himself. We were quiet and in a pondering mode when I said, he manages to get us to do all the talking. Maybe his parents had a real bad divorce and he doesn't want us to use his dad's name or visit him, Coop offered. We don't have to make this some kind of a big deal, you know? That's probably it, Simon said. Let's forget it. I'll change his absences and get out of his file. Rob will tell us when and if he wants to, right? Right, Bobster said. You, Coop agreed. I hesitated a minute. Simon turned and gave me his hard-eyed stare. Sure, I said. Why not?